So yeah, basically just to start off, just run me through like how you got into jiu-jitsu. How did you actually get started? What sort of interested you in jiu-jitsu to begin with? Was it like a UFC 1 type moment? Was it like you saw the gym near your house? What was the story?
Well, my pop, he was a judo guy. We did
Yep.
judo.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's sick.
yeah, he did judo. My dad did karate and boxing.
Yep.
Boxing when he was younger, karate a little bit later in his life. Neither of them were ever real competitive.
Yep.
But yeah, so Dad was always really into his martial arts and grew up watching Bruce Lee movies and boxing fights and all that kind of shit. So it was always sort of around it. Then I started boxing when I was 16 at the Fremantle PCYC.
Yep.
Was there for a little bit, and then when I was 18, went to a house party, and this dude, he was the brother of the guy's party. It was little guy, come up to me and like grabbed me by the throat and was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Blah blah blah. And his brother, my friend, come over and like diffused it.
Yep.
But at that time, I was just sort of froze. And thought, fuck. And then after that, the next day, I thought, I'm never gonna let someone do that to me again.
Yep.
So I started training MMA.
That's what triggered it.
Yeah. That's when I was 18. And then
where were you training MMA?
It's called the Fight Factory.
Yeah.
In Bibra Lake.
Yeah.
Bit of a strange kind of setup.
Yeah.
I was there for a little bit. They had some good guys there. Soa Palele, he was in the UFC. He was there. Stephen Kennedy was there for a little bit. Xavier Lucas.
Yep.
He was in the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep. He was one of those like special forces dudes from South Africa, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, at one point,
I started training with Stephen Wong, and he still trains and fights now out of Lustro.
Yep.
We pretty much started together back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then the gym closed down. I moved to a different area.
Yep.
And just sort of the job I had for ages, I was real busy all summer, like working 12, 13-hour shifts. Couldn't really train during that time. And then winter I'd train.
Yep.
I'd do kickboxing for a bit or CrossFit or whatever, but always kind of
seasonal sort of. Yeah.
And then changed jobs, had some more time, and really wanted to get into it, and sort of stuck with the jiu-jitsu from there.
Yep.
Sort of probably 28, I reckon.
Yep.
4 years ago.
Yeah, it's sick. You've been training pretty consistently since then, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yep. Obviously, you had things like kids and work and that sort of stuff. Obviously, slows you down a little bit, but you're still fairly consistent with like the gym and then getting in as well for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So the last 2 years, probably once a week, twice a week, maybe.
Yep.
Definitely once a week, but twice a week if I can. And then got a gym set up in the garage at home, so work out pretty much most.
Smash that as well. That's sick. Yeah.
Make up for it.
That's good. Hey. Yeah. At least you can get that in. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's pretty much been the last sort of 3-4 years, probably.
Yeah. 4 years.
Yeah.
Just finished that mature age apprenticeship.
Yep. That's killer. Obviously now that means obviously you qualified now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
And I've got like a kind of set time where I can know when I'm going to finish and stuff.
Do you work weekends and shit or no?
No.
That's all right. That's pretty good. And overtime sort of just when needed kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty flexible with it. Usually I work about 50 hours a week.
Yep.
On average.
Yep. 10-hour days type thing?
Yeah. 6 to 4 usually.
That's pretty good.
But, sort of the last few years been a real good balance, like work, life, training, family, the whole kind of thing. It's been pretty good. We like to train more, but 2 young kids at home, so it doesn't really work out like that.
Priorities, and obviously like spinning those plates is like a lot of people can relate to that, like that sort of thing. Like it's always the balance between like work, family, training. Seems to be the thing, right?
Yeah.
Go too far in any direction and something obviously suffers.
Yeah.
Been competing a little bit as well, getting into that. Did the wrestling comp on the weekend.
Yeah.
Yep. First one.
First wrestling comp. That was pretty good experience. Got gold in the takedown only.
Yep.
And then silver in the freestyle.
It's pretty good outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah. Not bad. There was three. To be honest, there was 3 guys in the division.
Yep.
One fella, he's sort of new to wrestling, got a jiu-jitsu black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy, big dude, young guy, has been training wrestling for a couple of years, but just Greco, I think.
Yep.
Greco and jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all on a similar kind of new to wrestling-ish. I guess, So it was good. Learned a lot.
What were your big takeaways from that? Like in terms of, was anything like technical that you noticed, or what are the differences you sort of noticed between jiu-jitsu competing and wrestling?
The real thing was the size of the mat or the arena in the ring that
getting pushed out and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think about the push outs.
Yeah.
And probably too passive from jiu-jitsu. Like they were pushing forward and I was just stepping back.
Yeah, you can afford to do that. Yeah,
out,
it's fine. Yeah, wrestling not so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one. And I guess I thought, being a wrestling comp, the guys would have the traditional like freestyle stance, like bend over, hands forward kind of thing, but they were both sort of more Greco, so they were like standing upright and looking for the like upper body throws and that. So yeah, I didn't really like think about that, but yeah, it was really interesting and like a lot of takeaways for sure. And stuff that I think you can implement into the jiu-jitsu, like say instead of they're pushing forwards, you walking backwards, like circling around to the side and cutting angles and that kind of thing. And the pace of the match and a lot of it's interesting.
It's kind of like a forced pace, right? You can't really be too passive. So yeah, definitely different to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu is very much more like patient, wait for the right moment. Wrestling's more like make it happen kind of thing, right? Yeah.
I guess the rules are designed to like, push the action, like you can get the stalling calls, and I think in like college wrestling or they have like the shot clock or something where you have to if they haven't shot, you have to shoot in a certain time and get penalized and that kind of thing. So it's definitely,
I think jiu-jitsu could benefit from some things like that. I think like we're seeing a bit more of that coming to vogue now with like ADCC reaching like prominence now a bit more. More of a wrestling influence, more of a no-gi only type athlete coming through now as well. And a lot more, I guess, like as far as jiu-jitsu competitions go, grappling comps or sub-grappling comps, they do a decent job of like negating a lot of the passivity. Like they're not letting you take 3 steps back kind of thing and that sort of stuff. I think it does make sense because like, you know, just from the point of view of like the athlete, but also the spectator, like if you're watching some of those matches and neither guy really wants to pull the trigger, it's pretty hard to watch. Whereas obviously wrestling is like all action. I always think the same with judo. Like most judo matches are 4 minutes and they don't last 2 a lot of the time, right? Someone gets thrown in a spectacular fashion often, which is kind of cool for the spectator. And it gets people interested in the sport, gets them involved. And jiu-jitsu has the same moments, but they're way more spread out. They're like, you know,
And like even watching like Battleground and stuff, when there's like a big throw or a big takedown, everyone's like, oh, so people like it. They like the big takedowns or the big throws in the wrestling. Like there can be some pretty sloppy or boring kind of wrestling in jiu-jitsu where guys just like collar tying each other for the whole match. But when there's like a big takedown, definitely everyone.
When someone commits to something and pulls it off, it's like kind of
And watching the high level wrestlers compete, it was like beautiful to watch, like how they were moving. And it was like it was incredible.
It's similar like in its own way to watching like high level judo or even high level jiu-jitsu, like a really good black belt, even in the gi, right? Like the technical like understanding of what they're doing. Same as like wrestling, like they have the movements are so like precise and calculated, and the patterns are so ingrained. It just looks like when the timing's there, it just looks like awesome. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so you reckon you'll do more wrestling comps?
Yeah, wanting for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, just to get the experience and there's already things I've learned from it and like
want to apply those things.
So
what about jiu-jitsu comps?
Yeah, definitely keen on the ADCC comps, the local ADCC Open and that. Done one of them last year. And doing the next one in May. Or the end of this month, and then hopefully the one at the end of the year as well.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, skill set wise, that applies, like we were just saying as well with the wrestling. It kind of carries over quite well to that rule set. Definitely more applicable in that rule set than some others, right? Like even some of the sub-only comps, they're really good because it brings out the submissions, but it does sort of remove the incentive to kind of get really good at wrestling, for example. Because holding someone down is not really helping you that much. Taking them down is not really scoring points. So like it can negate those things a little bit. Being able to take someone down and control them is always useful, but the reward's not really there. Whereas I feel like ADCC format, you're getting rewarded for pushing the pace. You get rewarded for takedowns. You get rewarded for holding someone down. It kind of makes more sense. Could you see yourself going into like a more higher level ADCC comp at some point, like going to the trials or something at some point?
So that's I want to go over to trials, maybe the next one. 2 years away, and then definitely the one after we fought, around 4 years away. Definitely a goal for mine for sure.
What weight class will you do? 99s?
Probably under 99. I'm over that now, but definitely could. That's probably where I'd be my good weight class.
Obviously the plus 100s you can run into some big giant Samoan dude or some shit, and then
Yeah,
yeah.
like watching the last Battlegrounds and the
Yeah.
main event. Maybe it wasn't the main event. The one with Tito and the fella.
Yeah, I forget his
Maori fella
name.
from New Zealand. Was it Jake? Something.
Yeah.
Remember. But he was like 140 kilos, and man.
Yeah, you can see, right? You can just see that it makes
too much against someone like
makes
that.
a big difference. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas 99s, you could probably be like super strong, super good, and then obviously be able to, do well.
It's kind of
potentially.
Similar kind of. I guess in the UFC, like the light heavyweight guys are like the 6'2", 6'3", kind of size. The heavyweights 6'4" plus.
Yep.
And the same kind of deal with, I think, with the ADCC. Like you see the heavyweights are all that 6'4", naturally, like.
Yep.
Could never probably make 100 kilos if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And the guys in under 99 are like the 6 foot, 6'2",
Yeah.
kind of height.
Yep.
More like more your natural weight where you're going to move well and have good cardio and stuff.
Yep. It's one of those things as well. It's like the way you train, right? Like a lot of people now, I think we're seeing a lot more gyms. There's definitely way more of a no-gi prevalence in jiu-jitsu now. It used to be a lot more like gi focused, right? A lot of gyms now are more 50-50. A lot of gyms are completely no-gi. It's not uncommon now.
Yeah.
Things are sort of heading that way. More sub-only, ADCC, less IBJJF sort of traditional jiu-jitsu meta. I think like the way you train really matters too, right? Like if you got a gym that's focusing on those rules, I think over time that's going to pay off. Like obviously at Match Shark here we do an ADCC focused class or session, rolling session, I should say. I think that really does show when the guys go out and compete. They're kind of more familiar and more aware, and the game plans they're working on actually applies straight away, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas I think like a lot of the gyms that are doing, like are still doing a lot of gi, are still doing IBJJF rules in their training, they're thinking that way. It's a bit harder to kind of bring it across, and you do see them like they're more passive, they're more like stally, and it just doesn't really pan out for them. Yeah.
Like the top gyms, like what's that, Sydney West?
Yeah.
They just do no gi, and it seems like their gym is just like they're just there to win ADCC. Or win the ADCC comps, win ADCC trials.
Yeah.
It makes sense if that's the big comp and that's what you want to win, then you should be training like that.
Aligning to that idea. Yeah. Obviously, like this gym here, we try to win everything. So we try to like, I guess, balance things a bit more. Like we got people here that obviously we do well at like SGT. We got people that like win pans, like all different rule sets, sub-only, ACC, guys going to trials and stuff. Like it's all kind of, everyone's got their own individual goals. So we try and cater to that. But I do think you have to have like some sessions where you actually focus on the rules you're going to compete in.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of gyms still that are just like IBJJF sort of focused, and they're just trying to jump in ADCC and give it a crack kind of thing. It's going to get harder and harder to do that as guys get better and better. Like the guys that have dropped the gear and they're just focusing on ADCC rules, and they're doing that all the time when they come in thinking that way, they're going to have a massive advantage. Even just understanding the tactics that kind of work in those rules and stuff like that. And ADCC is probably the most complex rule set, and in terms of grey area and stuff, the more educated person often does really well. Like you were saying with wrestling, with the push-outs and stuff. If you're used to that, it's a good tool. It works well for you. If the other guy's not used to it, you can identify that real quick and just capitalize on it. And
And I guess you see that at ADCC Worlds, a lot of the matches are kind of play out the same way.
Yeah.
Because the guys are all thinking about the rule set and like like going to turtle and from that like power half, trying to not get the second, to get the second hook in and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And a lot of the matches were like one I lost at the very end, with like one takedown or like one pass, something like that.
Yeah, you can definitely see it's flavouring the style of grappling.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I think it's definitely taking things on a better way for the spectator as well. Like you said, some ADCC matches, you get to the start where they're trying to kill that no points period, and they're both just kind of like clubbing and doing dumb shit. But then like, you know, typically at some point there's going to be like some kind of scramble, some kind of high level engagement, some kind of high stakes like section of the match that's really exciting. Yeah. So I think that's bringing out like a better flavour of jiu-jitsu, you know. Like there's definitely, like that's why the gi gets a bad rap, right? Like you watch like black belt matches, like a 10-minute black belt match, IBJJF, and you got two dudes just hanging off each other until like one of them scores an advantage, and then they just stall until the very end, and then they win the match. And then like I can't imagine anything worse. Like watching that, like watching that is probably the worst thing, right?
Yeah.
They just score that advantage and just park the bus, and
I think having the points on it in the ADCC matches, it makes it more exciting too. Like at the very end, because guys can kind of and they can see if they're down or up, and they like, no, all I've got to do is sweep and I'll win the match or something, and it like creates that intensity towards the end. Like guys really pushing for it.
Yeah,
like a ref's decision where they might think they have won, but they actually haven't.
Yeah, I definitely rate that rule set, and I think it's going to become more and more popular. I think like ADCC rules and sub only is going to be where things kind of go.
Yeah.
Definitely things are a lot more like in jiu-jitsu traditionally there was always like jiu-jitsu celebrities, I guess, like the high level guys and that, but like the average jiu-jitsu, I guess, practitioner probably didn't compete and probably didn't really follow the sport. I think that's changing a bit now. Like if you talk to any random jiu-jitsu practitioner, they would at least know who like Craig Jones is, Gordon Ryan. They will know these people, you know. They'll know like, you know, obviously like they'll know like Giles. They'll know like random just people. You could ask them. They might not like even follow the sport, but they'll know these people. And I think there's more of a culture now of like the athletes are definitely. It's becoming more of a sport, less of a martial art. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like it's getting differentiated a lot more.
And they're like marketing themselves on social media and stuff. And, and like all the content ADCC putting out and Flow putting out and everything. It's really building it up more and more. I think, for sure.
It's funny. I think like my generation might come up, like there wasn't really, there still kind of isn't to a degree, but there's like no money in jiu-jitsu to a degree. But I do think that's changing. I think like right now we've seen those sort of top tier guys start to kind of get paid, and I think that'll start trickling through. And then in generations to come, like 1 or 2 generations, we're going to see like professional jiu-jitsu athletes that actually make an income and a living like off jiu-jitsu, you know. The only way to do it really now for the average sort of black belt is like a school or seminars and stuff if they're a good competitor, maybe got a bit of a name, but like realistically no one that's like trying to compete and live off prize money is like making any money, you know. So I think that will start to change as well. And I always wonder, like, would there be a point where we reach like a professional jiu-jitsu league or sort of a more official type federation? Obviously IBJJF's kind of like the most official prestigious kind of thing, but that's not going to get you paid and they're kind of like fading out of relevance. I think now you see like what's that one that that dude from 10th Planet does? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The PGF.
PGF, that's it. That's the kind of like thing I could envision being something. Maybe not actually that itself, but something like that could kind of come. I guess like the way the main market, which would be probably the US, North America sort of market views things, is through that lens of like NBA, NHL, NFL sort of vibe. And
they're kind of trying to take some stuff from that, like they have the draft pick and stuff, and the playoffs and the rounds and whatever with that. I've seen a few of those things online, but I think a big thing as well. There needs to. It probably will never happen, and one way it's bad, one way it's good, but like the fact that there's a different rule set for every organization almost.
It's really hard to get like any kind of unified rules like
which is good because you see like different sides of jiu-jitsu and like the sub-only stuff at who's number one, but then at the same time it's kind of hard to follow, I guess, if there's so many different rule sets.
How would you describe your jiu-jitsu and what do you sort of aim to kind of do?
Definitely, I guess my style's like, I love like MMA and the wrestling and that, like good wrestling, good top pressure, and ultimately I guess it's what I think is going to work in like a real situation. Like I can appreciate all of jiu-jitsu, but the kind of style I would want to have or represent or display would be like that solid wrestling, and heavy top pressure. That's kind of it.
You don't want anything that strays too far from like a scalable, like from a real fight, I suppose.
Definitely. It's got to be like play around with some other stuff, but ultimately for me it's got to be what's going to work in a real situation.
Your core like A game needs to be like I've gone much more that way myself, like especially with no-gi. I think it kind of no-gi jiu-jitsu, what's effective no-gi is pretty much what's effective I think on the street, barring maybe leg locks would be a big one that kind of does work in sport and isn't maybe the best idea on the street MMA a lot of times. But definitely like pressure passing, takedowns, being heavy on top kind of makes a lot of sense.
Just the basics, like
Because I
don't have a lot of time to train.
High percentage stuff.
I just got to keep working on the basic stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah.
works. And I think that's the other more intricate stuff definitely works at the high level, but a lot of it you see is like just the basics.
Yeah.
It's just done like
Yeah.
at a really, really like high level, and then that
Yeah.
works, you know.
I always think the same. Like, look at the biggest and best takedown, double leg most of the time.
Yeah.
Doubles and singles. You look at the best submissions. It's often like head arm, RNC,
Yeah.
like Kimura. It's just the fundamental shit you learn on the the first few months of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it's just that to a high level. And I guess they're fundamentals for a reason. It's because they're effective and they work, and they're not overly complex.
Yeah, I've heard someone put it white belt techniques done at a black belt level.
Yep.
Which is kind of it's the same. It's the stuff that you see and you learn straight away. But yeah, you just keep sort of fine tuning it, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on, and yeah, you're our first episode. So
sweet.
When it comes out, I'll definitely tag you in it and post. And yeah, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Cheers, bro. What's up?